KTRS.
All right, it's 9/11, Big 550 KTRS, and the board meeting is in session, and our regular award-winning panel is here in studio. Speaker of the House in waiting, House Majority Leader John Deihl, thank you for braving the weather today and joining us here in studio.
Good morning. Getting tired of this snow.
Yeah. Can't you do something about that? Don't you know someone down in Jefferson City?
Yeah, maybe we can.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
Yeah, just stop.
Yeah.
That lovely voice is a gadfly, local attorney here in town, also a former chief of staff to Governor Holden. She's been in the room when decisions are made. Jane Dueker. Jane, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, everyone.
And joining us via Skype from the world headquarters of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the editorial page editor of STLtoday.com, Tony Messenger. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. This is my virgin Skype experience. Glad to be here.
So far, so good. Just make sure you keep your clothes on.
I was going to say, yeah, nice choice of words there, Tony.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Let us start.
Sweater vest for Jane.
I think I want blindfolds. instead
Right,
of-
exactly.
Thanks.
Let us start with the city of St. Louis. Jane Dueker, we'll start with you. The city of St. Louis, under some criticism for their snow removal policy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's interesting to me that when the storm first hit, there was a lot of press conferences, a lot of people standing up saying what a great job. And the workers have been working their tails off. And I think everyone believes that. But I think as time went on, I think things started to hit sort of a fever pitch yesterday when people and businesses were still not able to get out. And I think, so I think it at some point pushed the mayor's office to indicate that they're going to reevaluate the snow policy. And, and I think at least what I've seen on Twitter and other places is that, people are not questioning the workers. They're saying, look, there was decisions made here about what to do about residential and side streets, and they were treated on Sunday and never touched again. And I saw a lot of pictures of people just not able to get out and businesses not able to open.
Well, Tony Messenger, Nick Pister, your colleague, has an article in the paper today about the response, and Mayor Rainford was quoted in that story. What were your thoughts about watching this, Tony Messenger?
Well, there's two thoughts, and we're going to have an editorial about it in the paper tomorrow. But the first thing is that you have this issue of whether or not to plow and salt and put the chemicals down on side streets. That's never been done. That's traditionally not been the policy in the city of St. Louis. They haven't budgeted for it, and that's a policy discussion that needs to be had, because what they did this year different, and this is the second issue, is they mismanaged it. What they did this year different is they tried to go salt some of those side streets, and the mistake was that it took snow plows away from the main routes that they needed to work on. And because of the way this storm dumped snow so quickly and got cold so fast, they never got the main routes done. And that's where Jeff Rainford yesterday on the phone to me admitted that's where they made their mistake. They tried to do something they hadn't done before. So the issue now is, one, they screwed up in terms of how they managed the snow plows this time, but two, was it a good idea to try to do side streets? And if so, that's a policy discussion that's going to happen, that the city residents are going to have to be involved in, because that's a change from what this city has done since forever, for the most part.
But as a former city resident who lived on one of those side streets where they had blocked it off and put a cul-de-sac in it, you're not going to be able to get a truck in there. And if you did, you're going to bury my car, so I won't be able to get out till opening day. So you can't plan, John Deihl, or budget for a 20-year snowstorm every 20 years. It's just, unfortunately.
It happens. I sat on a city council out in Town and Country, and I'll say our roads were great on Monday. I got back from the airport. Clayton Road was down to the black asphalt, and they did a great job out there. But that's kind of what I heard this morning, particularly with some of these side streets out there. Is I don't know how you do get a plow down those, because you would bury the cars. I mean, it's almost like the residents would have to take their cars off the streets.
Right.
So you could plow that street, and I don't know where they put their cars unless they have an alley garage or
right.
whatnot.
But every other city deals with that. And what they do is they say, if your car's on the street, it's going to get buried and you dig yourself out. But once you dig your car out, you can actually get on the road and get out. And so I don't think it's, something that no city in the world has ever dealt with. I mean, now I understand there may be streets that are too small and whatnot, and you can't get a plow. But if your car gets buried because you're parked on the street, people deal with that, and you say, look,
But there's no room. You have to put the snow back on the street or back on the sidewalk, and then people who are walking can't. I mean, it's a 20-year snowstorm. It's a blizzard.
I agree that it's hard,
Yeah.
and
Snow melts.
and sometimes it's not what you do; it's sort of how you try to spin it
Right.
that angers people too.
And this is just. I want to give a shout out to Mayor Rainford because Tony Messenger, his spin on this is fantastic. He's saying the criticism of the city is coming from all of the young people who are moving into the city and they're demanding services. That's the best spin I've heard in years.
Well, first of all, I'm sure the chief of staff would appreciate that you gave him a promotion. He's now the mayor.
No, he's the mayor. There's no question about that.
I don't think that was. I think he's facetious.
yeah,
Tony.
I think that. Yeah.
Here's the problem with what Jeff did. Jeff Rainford has Peter Kinder disease. Somebody sometimes need to just take his thumbs and tie them behind his back and keep him away from the Twitter, because part of the problem initially was he got defensive. He got into these little Twitter battles with folks. And that was before there was enough information out there. Now Jeff Rainford is coming back and saying, you know what? Some of those critics were right. We didn't do a good enough job. And now we have to have this debate. And what he recognizes is the nature of the city might be changing in terms of some of the residents that are coming in. And if they want those side streets plowed, and if they want to deal with that downside that you're talking about, which means that cars are going to get towed, or there's going to be these snow route days where you can't park on one side of the street or the other. I've had to deal with that in Chicago and in Denver. Those are the trade-offs, and that's a discussion that has to happen after the snow's gone, after everything's melted, and whether it's alderman hearings or public meetings or whatever. But that's the discussion that has to happen. My best guess is, because of the nature of the storm and its relative uniqueness, it's not going to lead to a change. Everybody will calm down, and it'll be the same.
I think you have to keep in perspective the fact that this is a 20 or 25-year storm.
Right.
McGraw, and you're exactly right. You can't, you can budget toward what normally happens,
Right.
and then you typically, most cities will have consortium agreements with other cities and areas around.
Right.
But when you get a regional issue like that, that is a 20-year, 25 or 50-year event, you can't necessarily plan around that. And my guess would be by next week at this time, as Tony pointed out, probably nobody's going to be talking.
Yeah, all the young people moving into the city last year didn't complain because there wasn't 15 inches of snow on the ground.
Right.
Well, and it's a good problem to have, and while this may be a kerfuffle or whatever you want to say it is, and
Oh,
this,
nice.
isn't that a good word, kerfuffle?
Yeah, nice.
And this too shall pass. I mean, I do appreciate that eventually Rainford came around and said, look, got to have the talk, guys,
Yes.
and we're going to be transparent about it. And, maybe I was a little flip, but now I get this. And, it's a good problem to have that you have young people demanding services, and maybe the character of the city is changing, and that's a great thing.
Well, maybe I shouldn't call him mayor. Maybe I should call him prime minister. Mayor Slay is like the queen, right? So he has some
Wow.
ceremonial duties, but there's no question Jeff Rainford's running the city.
Well, I mean, he's the chief of staff,
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
he's making some calls.
All right. We've got Tony Messenger on Skype from the world headquarters of STLtoday.com. He's the editorial page editor of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. That's Jane Dueker. John Deihl. The board meeting is in session. Back in a moment on the Big 550 KTRS.